Hey, movie fans, Demetri Panos here for Popcorn Talk Network's Anatomy of a Movie. You know, I haven't told you folks that you all look marvelous. And of course you would, because today we are talking about Captain Marvel. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Anatomy of a Movie.
Welcome, movie fans. How's it going? Today, big to-dos, big movie. And we're here at Anatomy of a Movie to break it down, to expose everything and talk about this movie that, well, needs actually, it begs of discussion. And with me, my awesome, gracious, beautiful co-hosts, Marisa Serafini.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here.
Mina here.
Say hello.
Hey, everyone.
And again, my name is Demetri Panos, and we are going to be breaking down and discussing Captain Marvel.
We got the Marvelous M's over here.
The two M&M. There we go.
Yeah, Team M&M. We're awesome.
Yes.
And I got the D. So, anyway, for those of you who have not joined us and you are joining us for the first time, well, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining. And for those who join us on a weekly basis, well, you know the rundown. We go in depth of these movies and we talk spoilers, we talk plot points, we talk twists, of which this movie had quite a few. So if you haven't quite seen the movie yet, I do suggest go see the movie, then join us later because we're up in the ethernets. Once this the live stream is done, we're there forever.
Perpetuity.
In perpetuity, as Marisa likes to say.
Our favorite word. Perpetuity.
And again, we always love for you to be part of the discussion as well. Does somebody have our feed up if anybody chimes in?
Yes.
So if you are watching us live, chime on in, and perhaps we'll even read you out loud. And then, of course, once the show is done, you're always welcome to chat, which is fantastic. So, without further ado, we are going to start off with our opinions, and I will start off with ladies first, Marisa.
All right, so I went into this film not knowing anything really of Captain Marvel, like most comic book movies that I go into. So I'm just, viewing it as the actual movie watcher. And I enjoyed it. I had fun. I've always been a fan of Brie Larson ever since she was like 11 years old in the Disney Channel original movie On the Right Track. Yeah. I went back in her career. Like, have you been a fan of her for that long? Yeah, I guarantee you haven't. So I've always been a fan of Brie Larson. So I knew she was going to be fun. She was going to be dramatic. And her character had so many different ranges of emotions. And she was great. So I was all in for just her. I didn't even care if it was DC movie. Don't kill me, a comic book movie. It's Marvel. Not DC.
Marvel.
Don't kill me. I'm sorry. But for Brie, I was gonna go in for Brie Larson, not for comic in that sense. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't know the character or the backstory, and going into it, she didn't know either. So that's where I felt it was realistic because we're also trying to figure out her character.
Sure.
While she's trying to figure it out, and I was just along for the ride. There was good moments. Samuel L. Jackson was great
Fantastic.
chemistry. We'll definitely get into it, but honestly, I had fun. I really did actually enjoy this film.
Cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I wasn't crazy about it the way everyone else is crazy about it, but I did enjoy it. I didn't know what to expect with the Brie Larson casting. I was so surprised by that. I love her as an actress. I think she's phenomenal, but I just didn't know what it would be like to have her in a lead role as a superhero. And what I love about how they did this was, like, as you can see in the picture up here, she wasn't overly sexed up. It was a very feminist movie. And it still had this balance of femininity and masculinity where there's this overlying theme of emotions. And does having emotions make you weak or does it make you strong? And we ultimately find out that what it means to be human, and she can still be a superhero and still be human by having her emotions, and that's not a weakness. So I really loved what this movie did thematically. I loved the feminist themes. I thought Brie Larson's performance was great, and I love that it wasn't like just another like as much as I love Scarlett Johansson, it wasn't like an overly like, sexed up portrayal of a superhero.
Cool. Yeah, I again, and for those who are huge, highly detailed Marvel fans, well, welcome. If you're comic book fans, welcome. If we make a mistake, be gentle, be kind. You can point it out. Let us know, and because we may say things from a movie perspective, and I'll be straight up. I as much as I've read comics, never really followed up on Captain Marvel other than knowing who the character was, but that's about it. So want to get that out of the way. Just be kind. You can point out if we make a mistake. That's all good. I don't mind being corrected, but just don't be an idiot about it. That's all. So in regarding Captain Marvel, I actually... I ended up really liking this movie a lot more than I anticipated. I thought it was really structured. Well, first off, for a superhero movie, I thought it was structured magnificently. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a movie that like really takes off out of the gate. It took a little while to start really getting into it, but I appreciated it because I looked at it as if they were taking time to put the players on the board game so that you understood the world that we're about to enter with Kree and Skrull, and we are going back to the 90s and this flashback stuff that was going on. And they set it up rather nicely so that when things really started to chug along, you understood. I liken it to, if you watch our podcast of Coco, what's brilliant about Pixar is they give you the rules of the world at first. They tell you this, like you can do this here, you can do this here, so that when the movie gets along, they explain it to you at the beginning, and then once you're in the world, you're already like educated, but you don't even know that you're being educated. And that to me is brilliant, and that's what happens here. I felt that Brie Larson was I thought she was great. Even more so, I thought her chemistry with Sam Jackson was amazing. We'll talk about that, but it really felt real. And I know that they're quite close, good friends in real life. And that just seemed to like come off on screen, which I always love when that happens. But there were no throwaway support characters either. Everybody had something to do and or say. I love the woman who played her best friend, Rambo. Mm-hmm. She had some quite amazing moments, as did her daughter. So again, there were no throwaway characters. I never felt that this movie was overstuffed. I felt the pacing was really solid, and the movie was at a really decent time, and I didn't feel bored. The action sequences were a ton of fun. The nostalgia aspect, which it was so fun, tremendously fun, but it didn't beat you over the head with it. Mm-hmm. It was like, here we're in the 90s and they had these little jokes. The music, both score and source music, fantastic. Makes me wish that like rock music still mattered as it did in the 90s. So
I love the 90s.
That was one of my favorite
80s
parts.
And 90s, and I have the soundtrack which incorporates score and all the source music, and you just these bands, like, why don't we have this kind of music today? Made me think of that a lot. And by the end of this movie, number one, had some touching moments, powerful, but it made me I now cannot wait to see Avengers Endgame, where I was kind of lukewarm on Infinity War. I mean, I liked it, I did not love it, but now I can't wait to see Endgame and how that game will end. Now that we have Captain Marvel on the board, it was great. So there we go.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It was just a really solid movie. I saw it in IMAX, and it was gorgeous. It was actually filmed for IMAX, like literally saw the picture stretch from floor to ceiling.
Lord.
And it was on certain scenes awesome. So you mentioned you're seeing it tomorrow again?
I'm seeing it again tomorrow in 3D.
In 3D?
Yeah. 3D. I can't remember if it's IMAX, but it's going to be the 3D real experience.
Are you trying to pick up on things you might have missed the first time, or why do you want to see it second time?
I'm actually seeing it again with my boyfriend, so there you go.
I mean, I want to see it again because I really did have a good time. And I do think it's a movie that there are little things that you can pick up on. Especially now that we know the story and how it unfolds, because at the beginning it's a little bit of a mystery. Because as you said, as Carol Danvers is trying to learn about herself and why is she on this Kree world, and go ahead.
That's very Jason Bourne-ish.
Almost.
Like, I have no memory anymore. Who am I?
We just start, but not knowing who he is, who, like, in Jason Bourne, like, if you've ever seen those films, you know, he starts off, he realizes he has a bunch of skill sets. He doesn't know his background, kind of has amnesia. Not that she has full grade amnesia, but like she doesn't know her history. She doesn't know her background. She only knows a few people in her life, and that's it. She already has that skill set and the fighting techniques and stuff, but she doesn't know why. And I enjoyed that because we're learning also why.
Me too.
How did she get to where she is now?
And how it got pieced together was really well done, because in the hands of a wrong, like the wrong director, it could have been just a muddled, confusing mess. And I think that they pieced everything, all the pieces of the puzzle were there. You just have to really go along for the ride and the action for it all to come together. And where it really comes off when Marvel becomes Marvel, you're like, yeah, okay, that all makes sense. So, and I know we'll talk casting, but I was, I'd be neglecting our duties if it didn't talk about Ben Mendelsohn and Annette Bening, who were also, I felt, very fabulous. And it's good to see, well, Annette Bening in a superhero movie. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer has had her turn already.
Right.
So she's in the MCU, so why not have Annette Bening? Ben Mendelsohn will talk about his casting.
Part of MCU?
Uh-huh.
Was Venom part of MCU?
No,
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Sorry,
yeah, you Williams. Yeah,
Williams.
Pfeiffer was in Ant-Man and Wasp.
That's right. You're right.
So,
sorry, all these comic book movies. This is the 21st MCU film.
Jesus,
it's a lot to track. It's a lot to track.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that for a minute. It's my one drawback at this point about Marvel movies. Like, I wonder, you know. Yes, this is a standalone movies. Most of the Marvel movies are standalone, but they incorporate so much information from the other movies, like the Tesseract. Let's talk about the Tesseract, right? That plays such a huge part of the MCU, this movie universe, that I had to do a refresher and go, the Tesseract seems to have been in almost every movie, but where did it start off with? Because I know we've seen it in Captain America, First Avenger, Age of Ultron, not Age of Ultron, the first Avengers movies, Thor.
Yeah, Thor. I rewatched Infinity War literally last night. And then when you watch Captain Marvel, it's in this one. And if you take this story, because it's technically ahead of all the other stories, you're like, so where does the Tesseract actually originate? One has yet to know.
It's crazy. And so that's the one thing. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become so epic in scope that it's getting to a point that, like, the enjoyment of these movies, if you don't know some of these finer details and how, because where they're smart is it all blends into the other movies, right? Yeah. And once you figure that out, and there is an enjoyability factor, you can piece it all together. But if you are new, like if Captain Marvel was your first movie, which I saw some kids in the audience when I saw it, and I'm thinking maybe it was their first Marvel movie.
Well, Spider-Man for the kids.
Well, Spider-Man, Homecoming.
Yeah.
But, like, they're not going to understand, like, this history of the Tesseract. Like, what did you say, 21 movies? No, it can't be.
This is the 21st
movie.
Yeah, that actually sounds about right.
That is now officially in the MCU.
That's a lot of movies.
That is so many movies. And so many characters. There's so many years in between. So it is hard to, because... Well, like, we're fans of Marvel. I can't speak for all of us, but not all of us are the diehard Marvel fans. So it is hard to keep all those details intact.
And for you really diehard Marvel fans, well, here's an opportunity for you. You should put a timeline of all these Marvel movies.
I'm sure there is.
And do that because that would be great. Have a legend, a key, so to speak. So, anyways, but yeah, I really think that they weave her in quite nicely because we know that she's going to show up in Endgame. Not because the new trailer just dropped this week, which was really good, but because if you saw the end of Endgame, her pager, which is really funny.
That was good.
Which was brought up over here, so you can see the her logo, I guess. So she's going to end up there, and I just think that it's fantastic that this movie takes place in the 90s, where we know Endgame or Infinity War was more. Well, it's today. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think
and I liked how we had that 20+ year jump.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
and
yeah.
also,
she still looks the same, even though we know she's young and stuff. But like, she does look older, more mature, more put together, quote unquote, to help the now Avengers in today's. It's just crazy how it all just literally comes full circle.
They do such a great job connecting. That's the one thing that I always wonder, even when I think about J.K. Rowling and how she managed to tie like 7 books together, and when I think about Stan Lee and how do all of these characters come together in a way where everything coincides and there's no like plot holes for the most part. With such a huge universe. When we see plot holes in movies that are only like, it's just one movie and it's 2 hours long and we find like 10 plot holes in this entire universe with all these complex relationships and dynamics, it all seamlessly fits. It just kind of shows the brain power and the creativity of Stan Lee. And I even love the opening sequence they did where they had this montage for him.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
And clips about that. That made me like semi-emotional before watching it, and I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was really great. And we will bring that up for sure, I think. But yeah, I think that what Kevin Feige and Marvel have done is once Iron Man really took off, pun intended, that they just started this roadmap. And it's like, okay, we need to go from point A to the Avengers. How are we going to do this? And then we have the Avengers, and then we got to go to another Avengers movie. And how do we do this? And I can only imagine that their writer's room, like when they bring on a director and they bring on the writer, these are the beats you need to hit and cross over, and this is what we're going to mention, and then we're going to have this button at the end of the movie because people will remember that. Like, it really is, like, to be a script coordinator on this movie, you got to be like, you earn your keep as far as I'm concerned when you're doing that for this movie. And you're right. I think from a writing standpoint, from a cinematic writing standpoint, it is crazy, considering, too, that they're not working with same directors all the time, And to their credit, they will bring in new blood or bring in people that aren't that you wouldn't associate with superhero movies, like big tentpole movies. Like they give the keys to the car, so to speak, or to the Ferrari to people who don't come from tentpole movie making. Indie film, sometimes comedy TV, and they say, hey guys, we're going to give you a chance. We like your style. We like your sense of story. There are also people who are going to be excited to be working on a motion picture, so they're not going to fight back. And they just build this cohesiveness, and you can tell that they sit them down, and this is where we need to go. And that, to me, is genius. It actually, too, is one of the biggest mistakes that the DC universe has done. They seem to rush, especially those first, like Batman, Superman. They rushed to Justice League. They almost tried to reverse engineer. It was almost like they didn't have a roadmap, where Marvel has a roadmap.
Right,
they
but that's
know where
also,
they're going.
I mean, like, and this is so not a Marvel versus DC kind of, commentary. Go watch our other popcorn talk shows for that. But the thing with DC, they reiterate the same characters over and over again. How many iterations of Batman have you seen? How many iterations of Superman have you seen
because
with different
they don't have
actors?
as great of characters.
Exactly. It's
I
like
feel
they take the same characters and reuse different actors over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And at least Marvel, they set so many different new characters, so many different new franchises within a big umbrella that is Marvel. There are more characters and more backstories to develop, and that's why I still think MCU is more prolific in that. Just in movie sake and storytelling sake, there's more characters to work with.
Well, again, they've just road mapped everything out. They know where they started. They know where they want to sort of kind of end an arc. I mean, with every Avengers movie, it's the end of a series.
Yeah.
And you get up to the Avengers where you'll have the individual movies, and then we bring the heroes together for an Avengers movie. So yeah, I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done a fantastic job of interweaving all the characters and making it not overly confusing. And if you choose and you jumped in the middle, all these movies are available on like Blu-ray. You can catch up.
Yeah.
But when you're talking 21 films,
Yeah.
each movie is over 2 hours.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of movie watching. Not bad movie watching. You could be watching worse movies for sure. Captain Marvel is definitely not a worse movie. I really enjoyed Captain Marvel. So let's get into. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was
please.
going to say, it kind of reminded me, there was something about the vibe of Captain Marvel that reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I feel like you can kind of, if you were to draw a parallel between different characters, I feel like the protagonist of Guardians of the Galaxy, played by Chris Pratt, is kind of like the male counterpart for Brie Larson's character. I just feel like they have very similar personalities where they're like snarky and kind of quirky, and there's like a certain nerdy quality about them, but they're extremely lovable and fierce and also incredibly underestimated. And they just look like regular people on top of that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there is, at least I saw, and again, for you Marvel folk out there, please feel free to correct me if I am wrong. But in both movies, something happens to the main characters. The characters do something in each movie that no other person can do. And that is, they can touch an Infinity Stone. So Star-Lord in Guardians picks up an Infinity Stone, saves the day. If I am correct, there is an Infinity Stone in Captain Marvel, and she just picks it up like it's a rock on the beach.
Yeah,
like nothing happens to her.
If you see an Infinity Stone, you know that the Tesseract ends up being an Infinity Stone.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's her power. She is powered by a Tesseract when you but I noticed that. And the other thing that because I had a similar feeling, it was the music. Like music really
the 90s type of soundtrack.
90s, the best
also,
soundtrack.
yeah.
Okay,
it was so good.
And
the little
wouldn't
touches
be,
of like the blockbuster and
Yes.
her crashing into it, and just that feeling of nostalgia, and then being like, oh, this is like a shithole galaxy. Like, I don't know, it was just funny. Like they're so advanced.
I don't know. The 90s were a great time. Like I listened to the 90s, and I kid you not, every single day of my life in my car. I listened to 90s R&B music, 90s pop. It's still better music than all the shit that's released today. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I mean, so the music, I believe, I mean, the music helps drive Guardians and its 2 movies, and the music in this movie really drives the Captain Marvel because of what it's set in, and it keyed off a lot for my audience when. I'm only happy when it rains. Came on, the girl next to me, she was like dancing in her seat, and I'm like, I didn't know who she was. I'm like, oh, well, she's really digging this movie. So yes, I think that is a valid point, that they're similar in those ways, and the characters are similar because they each have powerful enough to hold on to an Infinity Stone where it would vaporize most anybody else.
And that razor sharp wit. I think personality wise, it's like, it wasn't as, intense as Ryan Reynolds' character in Deadpool, but there was that like underlying snarkiness where just like kind of like a smartass quality.
She had good snark, backed up by looks. Like she could like shoot, like she would just look at somebody,
the looks.
or she would smile at somebody, and like
Smirks.
you just like it was
She's
great.
so charming.
And that's how I fell in love with the character, and that's how the character made me laugh. I think it was you, Mina, that said you didn't really get to know Carol Danvers, and that's a valid point. I felt that I got to know her just enough for me to care, and I did end up caring. And what was brilliant for me was I want to talk about Lashana Lynch, who played Rambo, her best friend Rambo. I felt that I learned a lot about Carol Danvers through her.
Yeah.
And that to me was amazing. One of the best scenes, I think, in the movie was when the both of them were in the house and she was just telling them, and she was telling her the Carol Danvers I knew. And it was such an emotional scene. And from there, I learned about Carol Danvers through her friend.
That she would never die, like that she knew that she was still alive and she was out there. And she's like, yeah, my biggest fear was that I knew you were out there and there was nothing that I could do about it. And it was so powerful. Like, you know that someone's missing for 6 years who's such an integral part of your life and your child's life. And you know that there's nothing you can do about it and you're clueless. And it's someone that people in the military or Air Force are in such close proximity with one another where it's like a lifelong sisterhood bond. So it was nice to kind of see that play out, and also the diversity of like not just having someone as a side character when they're a woman of color and actually having them in a role that is like such an important and also heartwarming role. I love that. I thought that it was played out in such an authentic way.
Me too.
Right. You know, what I loved about their relationship is that for like twofold is that it was nice to see just another regular human friendship, because that also made Carol more human and more realistic in that sense, and it's also refreshing because I'm just going back throughout all the movies and stuff. It's hard to find another actual just true friend who's not part of the hero scheme, who's just a regular human being, and it's refreshing to see just like a normal person be a good friend to our hero, in that sense, because that's actually rare. And then the second part I loved about it, it's a healthy relationship. It's a healthy friendship from another girl empowering another girl. It's like, that's also rare to see, too.
Yeah.
Because
no tearing down, no getting upset.
Yeah, to have another woman lift up another woman, like, that's what we need. And I think that's what this movie did so well, is this. We had healthy, realistic, female empowering friendships.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think it's part of the backbone of Captain Marvel. And again, it goes back to there was none of the supporting cast that were throwaways. Everybody had really great purpose here, including Rambo and her daughter. Her daughter was fantastic as well.
She's so cute.
And they were very
Rambo.
endearing characters to fall in love with. To your point again, in a superhero movie, you don't always get that. It's actually one of the aspects of Age of Ultron that I appreciated the most was the downtime the movie took where we met Hawkeye's family. And like all the other superheroes are like, he has a family? Like, what are you talking about? And we got to see that. And to me, that was, again, sometimes in the Marvel universe, they have the time to do this, to introduce this. And to me, it just lends to the character. You end up, there's depth and there are stakes, because if that character dies, like there's the family that you've met and fallen in love with. Rambo is going to be there for Captain Marvel, and I just really thought that their dialogue was great. When Captain Marvel shows up for the first time, Rambo wasn't like surprised. She was just like, yeah, and then the little, yeah, we knew you'd be back. You know,
yeah,
it was like
cute.
It was really, it was a fantastic moment, and I think one of the strengths of this film. Another very, for me, emotional moment was the montage of her standing up. It's in the trailer, but in the context of the movie, when you see it, and then the final stand up is her as Captain Marvel, it just made me I applauded. I was like, this is great. I
got
really liked it.
chills.
It was just very well done. And for a character that you don't know a whole hell of a lot about, that you're learning about, for it to do that emotionally and get you, it works. You know, I think it really works. So let's talk about another relationship, which is, we're going to talk first about Sam Jackson, and then we're going to get into Ben Mendelsohn. But Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Nick Fury's relationship with Marvel, I thought, again, a heartbeat of this movie. Their relationship and their chemistry together, I thought was just brilliant. And you could buy the fact that, well, I mean, again, in real life, they're very close friends, but I felt that they were bonding so well in this movie. I want to see a movie of just the two of them.
Right. You know, initially that role was supposed to go to Keanu Reeves, and he turned it down, which I thought was interesting because I don't know, I kind of would have wanted to see Keanu Reeves with Brie Larson, though that's kind of like an odd pairing. I just love Keanu Reeves in general. But I thought the dynamic with Samuel Jackson and Brie Larson was refreshing to see. Just like that, it was like a wider age gap, and you know, his acting is always brilliant, and he can go from playing a villain to playing someone with redeemable qualities just like that. So I don't know, and he brings so much humor to the role versus like I feel like someone like Keanu Reeves is like cool and edgy, but he doesn't have that necessarily that same like humor. Whereas with Samuel Jackson, he can just turn that on, and I think that's what makes this movie like. That's why I was reminded of Guardians of the Galaxy, was the humor in it. It wasn't cheesy. It was like fun, and it was, I don't know, it was like quirky.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Mean, the Marvel movies, well, I'm sorry, Marisa, you were going to say something.
Oh, no, it's just fun because people, a lot of times, they forget that Brie Larson and Samuel Jackson have been in other films together.
Right.
Their chemistry is already genuine. It's already
She directed
there.
him in her movie. They were in
It's like
Kong.
They are longtime friends, so their relationship on screen is just genuine. It just translates. And it's fun to see. They were just, you can tell they were having fun together. There are moments where I was like, are you even acting?
That's
it's like, and you get paid for this? It's crazy.
Marisa, I felt the same way. I felt the sarcasm that would go between them. Again, you can't pull that off unless you really know the person
unless you know
to have that chemistry. And it worked, you're right. Absolutely.
Felt genuine, and it's fun because, I would totally take another film with just these two.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a comic book movie. It could just be any film.
Yeah.
But it's also believable too because there are times where he helped her and she helped him. It was a very mutual type of relationship.
Agreed. And I really felt, and again, some people have said, "Oh, Nick Fury was wasted in this movie." The way I look at it is, Nick Fury has been in a good handful of these movies, and I think
he's like a common thread through all of them.
It's a common thread, but think about his screen time, and I think outside of maybe Captain America Winter Soldier, that character has had the most screen time in this movie. You know, he is a supporting cast. Like, he's part of the rounded cast. Nick Fury is in this movie a lot. I do recall him in Captain America Winter Soldier being in that movie.
He just usually, Nick Fury usually just pops up for like one or two scenes in all the MCU films.
Yeah, he doesn't
Not all of them, but like majority of them. He just pops in and out, and that's it.
Yeah, he doesn't have as a meteor as a role or much else to do. In this movie, he did stuff. And I loved him with Coulson. I loved seeing him.
And they both worked on S.H.I.E.L.D. Back in the 90s.
So, yeah, I didn't think he was wasted at all. I thought Sam Jackson was great. And, again, the dynamic between Brie Larson, between Fury and Captain Marvel, he knows the strength that she has. And it's because of her that prompts, more or less, the Avenger Initiative, where we got to go out and find, like, she can't be the only one. I sort of enjoyed that as well. All right, so let's talk about Ben Mendelsohn. I thought it was the best trick casting of the year, I think.
Maybe a decade.
Yeah, I mean...
Or at least the last 5 years.
Ben Mendelsohn's been around for a long time. I believe you and I were having a conversation
We've covered
a week ago.
So many Ben Mendelsohn films.
And It's great. So the Skrulls are being at the beginning of the movie. They're set up as the bad guys. They're the bad aliens. Mm-hmm. And once you see that it's Ben Mendelsohn, at least for me, the viewer, like for me, it was almost too obvious. It was like, oh, it's him.
Of course,
he's always the bad guy.
And like, always. He's so good at playing smug.
A lot, yes.
Yeah, he's one of those character actors who always plays the personality type, where he's always the bad guy, bad villain, the smug guy that you just want to punch.
I mean,
he is, but he's great at it. That's why he does it.
He's fantastic, but he can play good too. But I'm going back to like Dark Knight Rises. He was the villain in Ready Player One. He was the villain in Rogue One.
Star Wars.
Ones there's a commonality with these ones. So when you see his face, you immediately think it just sets you off and go bad guy.
Yeah.
But when the twist comes in the last 3/4 of the movie, or the last half, I actually loved it. And Ben Mendelsohn's turn and turning the character from being like the vilified villain, and he's the one actually that you're going to be protecting. And I thought he was great. I really liked that turn. It was a wonderful twist.
And it's also good character building for him, and just as an actor, like personality actor building, because he can now play the good guy and the bad guy, because now we felt more for him when we realized the actual backstory and what was happening to him and the injustice upon his family and friends and stuff. And you feel for him in a humanistic way.
Right.
Like, even though he's an alien, it's like, oh yeah, we know what that's like, because it grounded him even more with human kind of problems.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I can root for you, knowing that, the Kree completely screwed over everyone you loved.
Right. Yeah.
I think it also, like, thematically, this was such an important lesson in the movie, where people that you think are the other or the alien or, are the villains, and then you learn to love what you didn't know before, because your perspective changes once you understand the common humanity and the suffering that goes on, and how, like, sometimes the other is way more relatable than we think, but we create these divisions because they don't look the same, or they have a different practice, or a different set of, not even set of values or morals. At the end of the day, like, everyone's kind of looking for their own self-interest and the interest of their people. So what makes someone good or bad is if anyone threatens that self-interest or that autonomy. So I just thought it was, like, interesting, like, so many great themes in this movie coming together.
And it was well done, because, again, talking about the trick casting, when you see Jude Law, he's very easily acceptable as a good guy. As a likable guy. Mm-hmm. And he's played bad guys before, but when you see him and the way he conducts himself, yeah, of course, he's the good guy. Mm-hmm. He's the leader of her battalion, or the Star Command. You get it. He's training her. You don't know that he's
and the fact
dick.
that he's, like, kind of, like, exposing himself to be harmed by her, and you're kind of like, oh, he's like this cool coach who's, like, really looking out for her. Like, you kind of, like, because someone who's, like, willing to expose themselves like that, you normally have this, like, sense of trust, like, oh, okay, I trust them, they're not going to do anything.
Absolutely.
There's, like, some openness there, but then we're just like, wow, what a turn of events here.
It was a good turn of events. I mean, I bought into it, and when it happened, I was like, well, okay, it wins because I didn't see it coming. And maybe some people can make the argument that they did, whether they've read comic books. I don't know. I didn't see it coming, and that made the movie far more interesting to me, because it wasn't predictable. And the people that, I mean, Babylon 5, the television series, did this as well, but it had a 5-season arc to change characters around. But this did it in little over 2+ hours. And when you turn the characters around and they flip-flop, and you go, okay, that works. I like it. And then I really loved Ben Mendelsohn. He was, like, really, really solid. So it was really well played. And it made the movie that much more enjoyable. And we did talk about Annette Bening.
Always fantastic.
She was great when she was dancing. to some of the 90s music.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
See,
She was really
another
good.
example of how it's like people that I wouldn't expect. Like she was in The Kids Are
Yes.
Alright. Like people that I
So good.
wouldn't expect to be in a superhero movie and then just doing an excellent job at it.
Yeah.
It's just like I've kind of like put them in this box of like, oh, they're serious actors, they're dramatic actors. And this is still a dramatic role, but it's so funny how I'm just like, wow, you see so much versatility now with people that you wouldn't expect being in these
Well,
roles.
but-
And she even said herself that she herself is not a big comic book fan, but
Right.
all of her friends and her family are. So they're the
course.
ones who had to actually explain to her the stories and the characters and stuff. And she admittedly she took the role mostly just to appease her family.
Of course, and and it's funny because my history with Annette Bening, and she doesn't know me, so but I'm just
She's
like watching at
fantastic.
the movies. I always remember her from The Great Outdoors.
Such a great
with
film.
John Candy,
John Candy.
Dan Aykroyd.
The bear.
She's great. And, and then other movies that I always admired of her were Grifters, where she plays alongside John Cusack. It's on cable right now. If you haven't cut the cord and you have the HBOs of the world and all that stuff, look out for the Grifters if you haven't seen it. Annette Bening is stellar in that movie. So she's
She's had
played
quite a
different
career.
roles and drama and whatnot. It's great to see a renaissance that Hollywood is utilizing women who have aged fine, like a fine wine, and that they're not just like staying with Meryl Streep. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer has had a lovely renaissance. It's wonderful to see her on the big screen, and it's wonderful to see Annette Bening on the big screen as well, and to be in a commercial big movie as part of the universe. Kudos to her.
Good for her.
She only makes it better, I think. As with Michelle Pfeiffer, it adds class. I mean, because
Yeah.
these are great actresses.
Now all we
So
need
she's
is like Bette Midler.
Oh
my God.
We can get her
I
back
would
in the
so
movie.
be there.
Just get
If
her.
we can get her in there.
I've legitimately seen every Bette Midler film, so don't
Yeah.
even get me started because that's a whole nother show.
Yep.
But like, I do love how Annette is in it because she's also great for another maternal role, another strong female
Sure.
in this film too to look up to.
Right. Yep, I
It's
agree.
like, keep them coming.
Yep, I totally agree. So now this movie too, the script was for Miss Marvel. Was being bandied about in 2013, so 6 years. This goes back to they knew they wanted to bring her in. They're road mapping this out. How are we going to do it? Well, it took 6 years.
And that's how long she was gone from Earth too.
Right.
What a coincidence.
So
fitting.
it took 6 years for this to happen, which again goes into the detail of putting that in. And they wanted to use Carol Danvers before she took the mantle of Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel is a much better title than Miss Marvel. I don't know, sounds like an Agatha Christie mystery.
It sounds like Marvelous Miss
yeah.
Maisel or
So-
something.
Also, look, Agatha Christie, she's fantastic.
So, and then in October 2014, Feige announced Captain Marvel would be released on July 6th of 2018. Didn't exactly hit that date, but they had a lot of moving parts. I forgive that.
And in between that, you got to remember, so it's like the genesis of the writing process.
Right.
Like, Marvel wasn't taken over by DC then.
Right.
Or, God,
Disney,
why do I keep saying DC? Sorry, Disney.
Disney.
I don't know why I keep saying
Marvel,
DC, sorry.
DC, I get it.
But like back then, within the last 6 years, it just shows like how much actually changes with all the moving parts. It's like,
Right.
Disney didn't own Marvel then,
No. No.
so who knew?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then there were discussions. Apparently, Ava DuVernay
DuVernay.
was in. They had discussions with her. I'm glad. No offense. I'm glad they didn't go with her. I think the duo that they picked, I think they were really great. We had a man and a woman together, because we had co-directors. Which again, not a bad idea. Marvel uses this a lot. I think they did a really, really good job.
Infinity Wars had two directors too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Russo brothers. Yep.
Russo brothers.
Yep. Captain America, First Avengers. Like they've been involved a lot, and I hope these two.
It's a lot to take on, so good for them.
Oh, absolutely. And so Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck directed this, and now they're within the MCU, and I hope to see more of their stuff because I think they did a good job, even if it's just a sequel to Captain Marvel. So we had now the story: Nicole Perlman, Meg LeFou, Anna Boden, Ryan Fleck, Geneva Robertson Dewart. So we have women writing this. A lot too, and to your point, you were talking feminism, a woman's voice. I think a lot of that did shine through without, but it was natural.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it's crowbarred in there. It kind of, for me, it kind of felt like, like Wonder Woman. Like, yes, I understand the importance of what Wonder Woman meant to cinema, to theater, to the comic book universe, and for audiences. And I feel that Captain Marvel is similar because it can still mean the same thing. Like anybody can go to Wonder Woman, but it gives little girls the imagination.
Yeah.
To this, I can be a superhero.
Especially because of the flashbacks. Honestly, just I think the whole origins part where we're seeing her as a child and we're seeing all the times that people were telling her, no, you can't do this. And then they see, like, little girls who go watch this movie will see, oh, but look at what she transformed into. And even the powerful scenes with her best friend when she was like, you didn't need to have, like, heat coming out of your hands or whatever power is coming out of your hands to be a superhero. You've always been powerful. She knew her to be powerful before it was acknowledged by her super strength.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very powerful message. And I also love how they did the flashback scene because it wasn't just her remembering something. It was her kind of being like pseudo-tortured / hypnotized into revealing facts about her background. And we're kind of in the same boat as her where we're like, what's going on? What's the truth? What's real? What isn't? So I think this movie did a lot of things brilliantly, and I loved the message it gave to little girls and boys because little boys need to see this too. There needs to be this mutual understanding that women are fierce and not just strong male leads every single time.
Again, I don't even, as a big little boy, when I watch a movie like Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel, I never feel threatened. I just feel it's a superhero. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're male or female. If you give me somebody to care for and look up to and admire, it doesn't matter to me. Yes, should there be more women? Yeah, absolutely. I don't argue that. But it doesn't feel like if I watch a movie, I said this on Meet the Movie Press, if I watch a movie like A League of Their Own, they didn't make A League of Their Own because there was an urge to do it, a need to do it. It was just a really good story. So I go seeing a movie like A League of Their Own, which is an all-female cast. Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm compelled to do it because it's all women. I'm compelled to do it because it's a goddamn good movie. Yeah. Right. And you walk out, and it's a damn good movie when it was released. And today...
In the 90s.
In the 90s.
Yes.
So,
and I wish more people were like that because there actually was a small group of like fanboys, and I was looking into this that were basically saying Brie Larson needs to smile more, and that's why there was that very specific scene in the movie where the guy on the motorcycle is like literally telling her like, oh, you need to smile more, honey, and it's kind of that like patriarchal like that disgusting like.
But I just loved it when she smirked.
It was
like, it made me laugh.
It was kind of like a commentary on that, like the guys that are like, oh, Brie Larson, like why doesn't she smile or why doesn't she do this? Kind of like that expectation on women to always be the perfect balance of whatever a man wants her to be.
And I want to let's talk a little bit about that because there was this whole trolling thing, right? But women were a part of this too, and a lot of this happened before the movie even screened. And it's like, this is just ridiculous to me. How can you go, well, it's not how can you go and hate a movie that you hadn't seen. It happens all the time. But why? Well, to what end are you doing this? Like, you haven't seen the movie. What? And you know, I understand Brie Larson had made some comments that some people were a little bit turned off on, but still,
It's for the right reasons. It may not have been executed correctly and publicized correctly, but the intent and the reasons behind it absolutely was heard.
Absolutely, Marisa, I agree. And I just don't know to what end, because, you know, Trolls, sorry, you lose. When the movie comes out and ends up doing almost $154 million in its opening weekend.
Number speaks for
if
itself.
anything, folks, you helped it get to that gross because of all the publicity that was given to this movie. And let's face it, a lot of people wanted to go see this movie. So, yeah, I just could never understand, what are you doing? Like, because it just makes, like, they're not making these movies for you, and you just want to, this is your outlet. Social media.
It's so unfair for the trolls to do that because, and like, I don't want to bring up gender issues either, but it was like, why so many trolls came out for this one? Because they haven't seen it. It was the first female-led MCU film. But it's like, if all the trolls came out and started hating all the MCUs because they're usually led by males, it'd be a completely different story. But because it was led by a female, we saw the trolls rear their ugly heads, and that's really unfortunate.
It really
and that's
is.
so not fair and such a disservice to the film.
But you know what else we've learned because of the grosses, right? They scream the loudest. So it really, again, $154 million opening weekend gross that was not on a holiday weekend, mind you. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's actually a damn good gross. So that really means that they scream the loudest, but they really don't contribute to box office all that much when you think about it.
Yeah.
They could have, in 9 out of 10, I'm willing to bet this crowd of 10 who screams the loudest, every other person went and saw Captain Marvel. So they could yell and scream all they want. I'm willing to bet that their boycott was shortly lived come Thursday night or Friday evening or over the weekend.
But Captain Marvel also just had to add the added bonus that they already have an already set up universe. They already have a loyal fan base. They're going to go see it anyways, no matter if they already made comments about it.
Yeah.
They're still going to go see it.
And I do think that it's good for girls. I think, you know, it'll be awesome come Halloween time to see a lot of Captain Marvel girls, you know, in costume asking for candy. But I think it's great for boys too. You know, that there's nothing wrong where boys can't relate to they love superhero stuff. They love the flying, whatever. The friendship, you've got aliens. They're going to love it anyways. And to your point about her power, it was a great action fight scene when she was housing everybody and she had literally her hands were like kind of tied behind her back because she couldn't use them and she's still housing everybody just on technique. Okay. You know,
that's fighting. That is fighting. And also Brie Larson, she spent months learning different types of martial arts fighting, which good for her.
Yeah.
You know, I'm partial to martial arts because I do Krav Maga.
Didn't she pull a bus or something or push a bus?
She pulled a Jeep. So
Jeep.
She did like serious calisthenics to the point where she was deadlifting 225 pounds and up to like I forget the amount and some other type of weights, but she was pulling an actual Jeep down a street. Like, girl can kick your ass.
Yeah.
And she's only in her like mid to late 20s.
She is my age. We are the same age.
She's like literally, I don't get it. She's incredible. How? And also the funniest part is like she can do all of this. And on set she was like, oh, but like get the cat away from me because I'm allergic and I'm gonna break out in hives. So
that
was funny.
And everybody's talking about the cat, so we have to talk about the cat before we talk about grosses and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, look, before I saw the movie, I heard a lot of people talking about the cat. Oh, the cat steals the movie. Oh, the cat. And when I was hearing that, I would say to myself, if the cat is stealing the movie, then the movie really can't be that good. And I'm not saying that because I too am allergic to cats and I'm not a big fan, but I'm like, this isn't a cat movie. The cat was fine.
The cat steals the scenes. He doesn't steal the movie.
He does not. He's just a nice little touch.
And it's not even.
He's a funny.
But
touch.
let's be real about it. The plot point of the cat is what steals the movie, because when you have Nick Fury and Ben Mendelsohn's character, forgive me, I forget what his character's name is, and they're doing the analysis of the cat, and they're like going, this is such and such species.
Talus.
It's Talus. Mm-hmm. Its threat wording is like off the charts. And then they go to Fury. It's like, he's just a humanoid. He's non-threatening and all. It's like, what do you mean? And then like you see the little cat there. But then when you see what the cat can do, you're like, oh, okay, right. That's pretty funny.
And it was really fun to see Nick Fury, who's like the least opposite kind of character you would actually picture with a cat. He was just like petting it and stroking it, and like it kind of softened him up and made him a little bit more vulnerable. But the moment that really like I thought the cat was used very well was there was a scene where you had the whole Kree population when they finally reunite with the family and stuff, and they see the cat, they're all like,
everyone's like, oh.
Everybody in the room was like, no, it's a cat. And
like,
they gave it some description, like some demonoid kind of thing that
what are you afraid of a cat for? I
was like, that was the perfect use of the cat.
Again, playing against the expectation of what we know as cats, and it works. Even and he coughs up the Tesseract as a fur ball. At the end of the movie, so
there were two deleted scenes, or two like
we had two
things.
buttons, and I thought, the with the remaining Avengers, and they have the thing and goes around.
Also, if you think about it, now that the Goose is the name of the cat, coughed it up. If you think about it, Nick Fury now in the 90s has ownership over the Tesseract. He is in possession of it.
But it gets stolen. Yeah. I believe that's the Tesseract that gets stolen at the very beginning of the first Avengers movie.
Right. But like now in the 90s, at this point, Nick Fury has possession of the Tesseract.
Right.
There's too much to keep track of.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And that's what I was saying. Like, if you're trying to immerse yourself.
Pegasus also in this film, which is also in Avengers 1.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, it's really it's what they've been able to do is just great, and I like that button with the remaining Avengers. They weren't in their superhero garb, and they turn around. It's like, I have no idea, and it's her, and she's like, "Where's Fury?" And it was like, all right, and I'm telling you, that's what I said. Okay, now I can't wait for Endgame. I really can't wait for Endgame, because she's a game changer, and from what little I know, and again, please Marvel fans correct me, but Captain Marvel is to be the most powerful being within the Marvel universe, is supposed to be. I mean, she's got Tesseract power in her now that I've learned that from the movie, but she's supposed to be like she's the
one
one
of the
that
more
can
formidable heroes. For sure, because if you think about it, like Scarlet Witch. Yeah, Scarlet Witch.
Oh.
Elizabeth Olsen's character, you could arguably say she was the most powerful, but she, dissipated along with half of the heroes. So right now, if we're going in the timeline, Captain Marvel is the most powerful now.
Well, yeah, I think she's the most powerful because she can literally hold Infinity Stones without nothing. So it's going to be interesting. I can't wait now for the outcome in Endgame, in part because Captain Marvel's in it. So let's talk a little bit about gross, what this movie has done. We already talked. Its opening weekend, $153.4 million.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good for a 3-day weekend, right? Now catch this. So domestically, up to this point, $187 million, 187.6. So let's just say 188. Foreign gross, $362 million.
Wow.
Foreign gross. Now, I had read an article just before we came in today that domestically, Captain Marvel should be up to $200 million.
Wow.
And it'll have another fantastic week. There's not a whole hell of a lot of competition. But when you look at the foreign gross on this, accounted for almost 70% of the entire global gross. So that's huge. And what that means for
Almost
Brie
twice as much as
Larson,
domestic.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's 65.9%, let's say 70, where domestic gross 34.1%. So it to me is it's fantastic. I think they did a really good job marketing this. I love the poster. I love like what we have behind us. Brie Larson to me, I had an opportunity to meet her briefly as well. She is very exuberant, and she's, trolls aside, I agree with you 100%. I think they mishandled. I think the publicity machine kind of broke down. They mishandled what she said. You know, and that caused a lot of some
Things
discomfort.
come out of
that could have,
context, journalism.
yeah, I think the publicity machine sort of kind of broke down a little bit, but I think they've righted the ship. I don't find any real reason for there to be trolls on this movie. I know from a Rotten Tomatoes perspective, last I checked, it was let's take a look, 79%.
Yeah.
Which to me, I don't know. I would expect it to have been in the mid-80s. Its cinema score is an A. Audiences really liking this. Its cinema score is not a Rotten Tomatoes or an IMDb or a Yahoo, where people can rig the score. Trolls can't manipulate cinema score like they can other outlets. So I will believe an A from Cinema Score. I think this panel really enjoyed it. I think the people who are watching us really enjoyed it as well. Yeah. So why don't we just, I think, oh, we talked about the source music. We didn't talk about the score. The score for Captain Marvel, which I ended up downloading last week, which folks, I really highly recommend it because it includes the source music.
Yes.
So it includes all the great music of the 90s that was in the movie. And it includes this really great score, too. Yeah, you should. I highly recommend it.
So many great 90s songs that I still listen to like every week of my life.
The No Doubt one was so like fitting, I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, everything was used
So good.
really well, I felt. But I really, as far as Marvel has always been accused from a score perspective as being, nothing stands out. Like, how do you, like, it's not like a John Williams score that he does suites. And that once you hear the score, you go, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
So I will say regarding this score that I thought that it was really done well when you mix it in with the 90s music. It really it's great. But the score is very heroic. Forgive me, I'm trying to find I want to give credit to the person who did the score. Oh, I know what it is. Oh, it was actually a first. That's right. It's the first female to compose the music for a superhero movie.
Yes.
And that is worth. Thank you for finding it, because I wanted to give her. I wanted to give this Pina Toprak credit because I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah, especially the whole montage of the whole stand-up, getting up thing. I was like, yes, get it.
Goosebumps.
I would stand up too.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Her
It's a
score.
great message.
And it was released on International Women's Day. That's what you found out. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
So-
It's a great score. It's a great montage. It's a great message, like all paired together.
Listen to the score on its own, and you'll recall that scene, and you go, "Wow, she did really good." And I've seen some behind the scenes of her like conducting. She was so proud to be part of this and to have been invited in. And I think International Women's Day, when you have a Pina Toprak, Brie Larson, and you have a woman directing and writing. I mean, look, you can argue whether you like Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel better. I put them on equal footing. For me, that's just for me. You can like a movie better than the other. That's fine. But I think what they do for women, I think within the industry, outside of the inspiration they give for kids, I think it was fantastic. I think it really works. So, anyway, so final thoughts, Marisa.
I think this film did a great job in opening up doors for more stronger female movie leads. Whether it be comic book movies, whether it just be in movies in general. And like we're seeing the shift with Hollywood where there are better, more stronger female-led protagonist films. And this is one of them. So it's not new, it's just needed.
Yeah.
We need more movies like this. I enjoyed it. I'm going to see it again. I'll probably enjoy it even more. So yes, great job, Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Mina?
I know. I totally agree with that. I thought Captain Marvel was great. I think, it's so important that we have these strong female leads, and it's not just fitting the mold of this overly sexed up, sidekick or just like a very voluptuous woman, because I think oftentimes, even when it comes to like the shape or the body or like the mannerisms, people have a certain idea of what it means to be a woman, but this movie just explains what it means to be a woman so well that you can fall down and get back up, and you can be strong and you can be fierce, and femininity is shown in so many different ways. Like, you can be a smartass and you can be beautiful in so many different ways, and your worth isn't tied to how you look. It's just kind of your character.
Sure.
And I love that. It's the fact that you're a good friend, that you are loyal, that you are kind, that you are a force to be reckoned with, that, she doesn't just go and kill Jude Law's character. She still has, like, the empathy and the emotional connection to send him back without killing him. Like, she has a certain degree of loyalty even to someone who she is no longer on their team.
Right.
So this movie does so many things so well, including not just, like, the setting of the 90s and, like, that nostalgic aspect, but also the humor, the writing, the acting was stronger than most Marvel movies I've seen. And yeah, everything. It did everything very well. I liked it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It would go into my top, probably my top 5 for Marvel movies. And the Marvel movies. Let's face it, 21 films, right? There's a small handful, I think, that you can point to that really aren't that good. But the other movies, I would say, are like really good, but they're degrees of good. Like, this one's better than this one, okay, that's fine. But there really isn't a stinkeroo. There isn't one of these Marvel movies that I would like give it, where I would give it the finger. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they've done a really good job considering 21 movies. Not too bad. I think Captain Marvel is just another one where it's good entertainment, to your point. It's great female character, but I think the men were really well. And again, they were given opportunity, good opportunity. They showed up. The characters, everybody had something to do. And there was nothing thrown away. There was really no fat on this movie. I wouldn't mind seeing some deleted scenes. But this movie wasn't 2.5. I don't think it was 2.5.
2 hours, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's not bad.
No.
I'm glad. I hate it when they make it like 10 hours long.
The next Avengers movie is being rumored to around 3 hours.
Good Lord.
So,
They always do that for Avengers. I
anyways.
don't like watching 3-hour-long movies.
Well,
This is
folks,
great.
we're going to wrap up our Captain Marvel. I think you'd agree. We all felt it was marvelous. Marvel. Oh, Marvel.
Runaways.
So we believe you too. Again, please feel free to comment. We will, we'll be talking, I'm sure, Avengers Endgame, and then all these other movies. We were going over the summer movies between Avengers, Toy Story 4, Maleficent.
I'm so excited for
We've
that.
got Dumbo, Aladdin.
Disney film.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I am excited
It's
for
really,
summer.
really unfair for everybody else, to be honest.
And
But,
Endgame in a month.
yeah, Endgame in a month. So
Only a month.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. We're looking forward to you for tuning in. I thank you very much for listening and giving us your time. And again, take more time to give some comments. If there was anything you want to nitpick about, please let us know. Just please be kind. That's all we ask. You folks have been doing a fantastic job, whether you've agreed or disagreed. You've written out some decent theses that I really, really have appreciated reading. Whether you've turned me or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just glad that you wrote. And you do a good job doing it when you put some thought behind it. That's all that really counts. So thanks for loving movies as much as we love movies. That's why you tune in. Keep going to the movies because, hey, we need this to sustain. So love you for it. We'll see you at the movies. Take care for now.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.